there's all these races that are trying to cut down on their plastic waste and trying to find ways around not using plastic bottles. But one t-shirt is the equivalent of about 9 plastic bottles. It's 7 miles of yarn. It's just insane how, that is just being missed, completely missed.
We actively encourage people not to donate to us and keep their stuff. And in the stuff we've got for sale, we actively encourage people not to buy it from us.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Stokely, an opportunity for you to now sit back, connect, listen, learn, and evolve through the art of conversation. And today we're going to learn a lot, because today we speak with the people that created the brand and the clothing company and the initiative ReRun Clothing, and that is Dan and Charlotte, and they are on a mission, and it's pretty amazing to see what they've been able to achieve and the direction that they're going with their concept of ReRun Clothing. So I'm really pumped to be able to introduce you to this whole concept. It comes from a really honest place, and I feel like they are just really down to earth and really all about what they do. Also, being down to earth and being all about what we do here is we take a moment to thank the traditional custodians upon the lands which this podcast was created, and we'd like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And we do that because we feel like it's right. So, thank you for taking the time to acknowledge that too. So, ReRun Clothing, an incredible initiative that's really been pushed by the consumption and just the real time we are in terms of using and throwing away particularly clothing items and changing our relationship with that. One thing that the people at ReRun, Dan and Charlotte, really focus on is almost getting you to actually do nothing, because that can be the most impactful thing that we do when it comes to making choices about what we need and what we don't need. There's a lot of information, so I really hope you can digest it, think about it, and I hope you can go check out their website and see the work that they're doing. And if you really are motivated by it, then go and reach out to them and see how you can get involved, or see how you can implement something like this in your own community. I'd like to thank Charlotte and Dan for having the chat, and I really hope you enjoy it. I hope there's some takeaways for you in it, and that's all for now. Let's get into it.
That I like those.
Well, the cool thing is that I've got this brilliant quote that I thought is just like so perfect for like starting our little conversation today. Do you guys want to hear it?
Yes.
All right. So the quote is, "I do not need to spend every hour of every day contributing to the solution, but I refuse spending a minute contributing to the problem."
Nice.
Yes, I like it.
Yeah.
It's not bad, eh?
Yeah. Where'd you get it from?
Well, let's just mark that down as anonymous. So I forgot to record who wrote it down. But nothing's original anymore, and probably that person took it from someone else.
Yeah, maybe you said it.
Well, let's claim that. I think that's a great thing. But yeah, because I thought there is a whole bunch of what you guys do that is really like trying to prevent the huge problem we have in the kind of fashion and clothing industry, and I suppose running industry as well. But there's also before you guys even encourage people to get involved in what you do, you always ask them to stop and then ask the question of do I really need this? Which I think is pretty cool, because it's it goes exactly with that quote. It's you might not do something every day, but you can do one thing to not contribute whenever that opportunity comes up.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you talk about consumption, doing nothing is the best solution, isn't it? Not consuming is just quite simply the best solution. It's even better than consuming the most sustainable, the most environmental brand. Even if you buy that thing, you're still somewhat kind of contributing to a manufacturing process or something that leaves some sort of imprint on the earth. So yeah, the best thing to do is kind of around consumption is just to do nothing at all. Just stick with what you've got. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, basically that's all I really needed you hear you guys say, and now that's the end of the podcast.
Right, we're off now.
Done. Yeah, you don't even need the professional mic. That sounded pretty good. But can I so just as a bit of an introduction, because often I just roll into these conversations and then I forget to even frame the whole conversation that we're having. So to start off on the right foot, I've got both of you here today, and I'm going to let you both introduce yourselves and give us some insight into, what you guys are doing in the space of being fashion icons of the 21st century.
Cool,
I think a fashion icon is a slightly strong way of putting it. Yeah.
So you want to know who we are? ReRun. Who ReRun is?
You start, Charlotte. Who are you?
Me or ReRun?
You.
Definitely you, Charlotte. Definitely you.
I'm just Charlotte, and I'm
a fashion icon.
I'm a fashion icon. Yeah. I'm Charlotte. I'm not a runner. Well, no, I do run sometimes, but I'm not a runner like Dan. I've spent a lot of time. I'm involved in this community because I've spent a lot of time crewing Dan, and I really, really love and enjoy the running community. But I'm not. I wouldn't put myself as a runner. Yeah, is that what you wanted?
The thing is, yeah. I guess the thing is it can be assumed that the podcast that I am putting together with a good friend of mine has a lot to do with running. Basically because, like my background and a lot of the last few recent years have been very running related. But I guess just to put it out there, this podcast that we're putting together is more about protecting and maintaining the art of conversation. So there's no real subject matter specifically. However, I believe there's some people and some topics that we could discuss in this world that are probably going to go towards helping us all enjoy life a little bit more and learn a bit more, grow a little bit more, and evolve a little bit more as humans. And I feel like, Charlotte, you lead a pretty incredible initiative that has that people would probably benefit learning about. And I think it's pretty inspiring. So that's where I really got the idea of wanting to speak to you.
I think Charlotte could give it a better crack of who she is.
Okay.
Rather than my name's Charlotte and I'm not a runner.
Yeah. So
but maybe I need to work on the art of conversation a bit better. This is good practice.
Well, that's brilliant.
No,
because
it's interesting to work out where your passion came from to work in this kind of field of I don't know, I suppose, what would you call it? Environmental campaigning.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. I would love either Dan or Charlotte to just take the reins and get straight into it.
Well, I think I could probably speak for myself, but I think Charlotte's motivations may come from a different place entirely. I don't know, but I am a runner. And I do, like yourself, Mahal, I've been kind of to some amazing races all over the world and competed against some fantastic runners. But ultimately, I don't run to race or to compete. I run because it gives me like a calmness, a headspace. It's a way for me to get away from like the kind of trappings of the modern world. It's a way for me to get out into the country and not have a phone or a screen near me and not listen to the media and not have adverts. It's just a way for me to get away and just be natural. And I think my motivation for being ReRun kind of came from a realization that I'm running and doing this thing I love to do that takes me back to nature and takes me back to complete like simplicity. But I was I was getting involved in a lot of non-simplistic, if that's a word, things to do with running, because I was starting to be like a cog in this kind of consumerism machine, because I was promoting products through my running, and I was being affiliated with like clothing brands and like nutritional brands, and rather than running being something where I could just get away from all of that, it seemed like I was becoming entwined in all of that, and I wasn't getting to, like, running wasn't setting me free. It was kind of just, I was just in that cog in that machine. So yeah, my realization came from that, of just wanting to go back to running being a simple thing, and not letting it be, it's such a beautiful thing, that not letting it be part of that whole consumption that we're all wound up in. I don't know if yours is the same, Charlotte. I reckon I'd guess that yours comes from more, you're a mother and a grandmother, and I think a lot of it, I don't know, comes from trying to protect.
Yeah, it comes quite naturally to me what we're doing at ReRun, and I think you're probably right. It does feel very much on a par with what I've been doing most of my life, bringing up my children, and how I've been bringing them up, and with the values that I've been trying to inspire them to take on themselves. Yeah.
I'd say Charlotte, has lived her life more in tune with ReRun's values, like just living your life, whereas I've only come on board in the last 4 or 5 years, I don't know.
Yeah, it does feel really good to do something that I'm fully behind. I've always really struggled with jobs because there's always been something wrong with them, and like Dan, I've always had that feeling that I'm supporting something that I don't fully believe in, yeah, and that I don't want to contribute to, which has resulted in me having so many jobs, because I can't last, because I always find a reason that I can't continue. I don't feel like that now.
Yeah, I think even when I first knew Charlotte, you were doing, I think Charlotte was a dancer, and she was doing like some acting or media, I don't know what you'd call it. It wasn't acting, was it? Like appearances.
I was doing commercial work, yeah, and I couldn't ever do it because I didn't want to. I remember going for an audition as a dancer for you don't, when you're that kind of low level, dancers aren't really big superstars, are they? So we would be sent to auditions, and you wouldn't know what you were auditioning for, and only if you got the job would you know what you were auditioning for. And I got this job for I realised I was auditioning for a chewing gum advert, and I just didn't want to do it because I don't want to advertise chewing gum. So even and I was only 20, and I've just done that the whole way through. I worked for a card company, and the cellophane really bothered me, that I was putting cards in cellophane. So I lasted 3 months, and then I left there as well. Yeah. So it's good. It's nice.
I think, I just have to hold you up there, Charlotte, because, I think dancers are pretty impressive. When a dancer can dance and there's no one else in a club that's dancing well, then I think that person is an absolute superstar.
Yeah, what I meant was you don't become a dancer because you want to be, when I said just a dancer, you don't become a dancer because you're going to be a big star. I think it's changed now with these TV programs, but 20 years ago, you really, maybe it's a bit like a poet, or you don't do it because you love dancing.
Yeah, like a runner.
And when you train, yeah, maybe it is like a runner. When you train, it's just wonderful because you're just trying to become the best that you can be. And then when you go out in the world, everything changes because you then are trying to get something. And that makes sense.
Yeah, and being judged and being
and receive approval.
Yeah.
And that might be through this advert for this, or dancing for this pop star, or that, or Coca-Cola, or that brand, or this. But then you don't really want to do that.
You get blinded by the lights, no?
Yeah. Well, I didn't. I wanted
Same thing
to.
happens in running, no, Mahel? You like when I'm sure, I don't know if you may agree, but when you first start running and you start to win a few races, and brands approach you and say, "Oh, do you mind promoting our products?" You feel like it's like a recognition that you're a good runner. So sometimes you kind of just say yes to everything without thinking it through. I definitely did. It was more my ego was like leading the way rather than actually my heart, I suppose, until I started to have that realization and realized that, yeah, what am I doing? I don't, these brands that I'm being affiliated to, I just really don't necessarily, I haven't even asked the question of like what they're,
what do they stand for?
Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah. But Charlotte would always be in the background saying, have you, asking me to ask those questions. Yeah, which is good.
Yeah, I think you're right, Dan. Yeah, I mean, I've spoken a lot in other conversations on other podcasts actually about how easily we can take a bunch of free socks for a whole bunch of Instagram posts and be like, damn straight, hit me up with those free socks. Like they're going to change my life really well. And absolutely, you definitely get sucked into, ultra running, and running is a for the large part a very small sport, but there's still some glitz and glamour there that I think definitely tie into your feelings of self-worth and feelings of recognition, and you can get totally sucked in and carried away with all of that. I just wanted to say, Charlotte, that it's amazing that you have been able to like stay pretty in tune with the values that you feel are what really matter to you. So would you be able to give us like a real rundown on the history of ReRun from your point of view, and then we'll just make sure we capture what the values are of ReRun within that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the history of ReRun. So we started maybe 2 years ago, when around September time, and we were sat down discussing, it was sort of around sponsorship renewal time, and we were sat down discussing that, his values and whether he wanted to be represented and represent in the way that he was. And that's how it started. And then it went all kinds of different directions, the conversation, but he together came to the conclusion that he didn't want to be involved in any of that. And for Dan, social media doesn't come naturally. It's really and that's really important, it seems, for most brands when you're working for them. So then we thought about, a lot of the conversation was around all this free things that were being given and the waste created around that, and the fact that it wasn't used and it wasn't needed. So we were talking a lot about that. We were in India at the time because we spent a lot of our lives, we split our lives there at the time, between there and here, the UK. So India is very in your face with waste, textile and other waste. You can't get away from it. So which is wonderful, and one of the things that I love about India, because here is the same amount of waste, but we're very good at hiding it or sending it away, so you don't see it. And so we were already really consciously, we started with, let's never buy a plastic bottle again. We decided that was the easiest place to start, and that's how we started. And then and that was what led to our conversations around clothing. So basically we ended up, our first idea was to become a second-hand clothing running shop, because we thought you extend the life of clothing by 3 months and you can reduce the carbon footprint by something like 30%. So we just thought that's a no-brainer and let's do that. But so that's how we started, and it just rolled really quickly. We just put it out there, and people were like, yeah, I got stuff I don't want, I'm going to send it to you. And I was mostly thinking about people in Dan's kind of circle that were receiving free things. And I was thinking, would it be great if we can like pass that on? And then people that couldn't normally afford that kind of thing, because Dan and I live on a very tight budget, so I'm really aware of not being able to afford things, can have this experience of having these great things without having to sell their soul. You know, they can feel like they're doing a good thing as well. But what happened was so that was easy, and we started to receive things. But what we were receiving was 10% running clothing and 90% finishers t-shirts. So the t-shirts that you get from events, when you sign up for an event, and you automatically get a t-shirt as a finishers t-shirt, whether you want one or not, it's not an option, or it certainly wasn't then. So we were just receiving all these t-shirts, and that's when it changed from essentially a second-hand running clothing shop to a environmental campaign where we started to work on changing behaviours and raising awareness around the waste and coming up with solutions and being noisy about it, basically, which I think we've been quite good at.
Yeah, I think we've it's a real issue. Like, our aim really is to reduce textile waste within the running community. It's quite a simple aim, and within the community that we spend a lot of time. And the biggest way to reduce textile waste in the running community at the moment is to stop these race t-shirts, because like you say, 80-90% of all the donations we get of all the unwanted unloved clothes in the running community are finishers t-shirts. So it's a real big problem in the running community. So and it's almost like that's what we want to try and get hold of first of all, and try to eradicate. And then after that, then we move on to the shoes and the trainers and the responsibility brands need to take for the kind of afterlife of trainers. But our first mission is to try and reduce the waste of finishers t-shirts. Yeah.
We're talking to you now from our workshop, which is 50 yards long, and half of it is full of finishers t-shirts. And you remember that these are polyester, so they're made from fossil fuels. There's all these races that are trying to cut down on their plastic waste and trying to find ways around not using plastic bottles. But one t-shirt is the equivalent of about 9 plastic bottles. It's 7 miles of yarn. It's just insane how, that is just being completely missed. And it would be such a win, but because it's not recognised in the first place as plastic waste, it can't be marked as a win. So the first step is awareness that what you're wearing is plastic, and it's not even single use. When we receive them and they've got labels on them, they've done this tragic journey from starting in the ground as a fossil as oil, and then this whole manufacturing process on the other side of the world from us, all this energy used, all this water pollution, and we don't even talk about garment workers and whether they are, what kind of working conditions they're in. Lots of other people talk about that, so we leave it to them. But there's that issue as well. The fact that the wastewater is going into the local community who aren't even involved in the textile industry, and their water is being polluted water that they use to cook, to clean, to wash. Then it's transported, and then it's not even worn, and then it becomes mattress stuffing. Best case scenario, it becomes mattress stuffing. So it's a real tragedy, I think, unnecessary tragedy.
Yeah, I think it's pretty incredible when you start to look into the detail of the clothing industry as a whole, and then there's all these little sub industries within that. And I guess you guys are really focused in the running side of things, and it would be great to see how you can evolve what you're doing at ReRun and take that to other kind of industries. I guess what I was going to say is, so there's some incredible stats that really blow me away, and you've got most of them listed on your website, which is a great resource for anyone who's like interested to find out more about what you guys are doing, obviously, and what is happening in the global scale of things. But on your website, I just want to read a couple of these out because these are just incredible. So every year it's estimated that 300,000 tons of used clothing goes to landfill in the UK. So that's just the UK alone. And that's the equivalent to 544,311,000 Olympic gold medals being chucked away to landfill.
Yeah.
And then another one, which I think is just
the same as as well. You can look at it as around, it's almost 7 Titanics as well. Titanic was something like 50. It was 52 tons, the Titanic. So that's another incredible image as well.
And that's what gets just thrown away to landfill. That is not to anything recyclable, like not into a place that's going to, like what you guys do, recycle it. And the other thing I thought, which was super interesting, was the average life of a running shoe on our feet is about 4 to 6 months. And then if you send that to landfill, then they hang around for a further 11,994 months before they start decomposing. And I remember listening to that stat or reading that stat and then kind of putting that together. And it's just so interesting how, don't get me wrong, I've worked with running shoe companies and I still have an affiliation with running shoe companies. But, I look at these stats and I think, isn't it incredible how a company will say, buy this shoe of us, and in 4 to 6 months' time, you're probably going to need to renew that shoe. So essentially that shoe becomes redundant. And because you bought it, you now essentially have the ownership of what happens to that shoe, but you're also getting told that it's basically no use to you. So like there's this item that you're getting told to buy and then you're getting told to get rid of. However, it still has nearly 12,000 months of existence in it before it starts to decompose. And I just think, what happens?
Oh, it's crazy.
Who takes responsibility over that?
Yeah, well, it's kind of the responsibility, like exactly what you're saying, Mel, like they just palm the responsibility onto us. And it's that brands really, I think, hopefully in the next few years, this will change and brands will realise that kind of post kind of use of the product, like you say, after if they're telling you the shoes only last for 3 months, then they need to take responsibility of what happens with those shoes for the next, you say like a 1,000 years, because it's, I mean, if you think about it, that stat, every shoe that's ever been made, unless it's been burnt or someone's ground it down, it's still here. It's still on the earth. Yeah,
Unreal.
It's still on the earth. And when we die, they'll still be there as well. They're outliving us by 10 times, And you think, I mean, so just Adidas, they will produce, I think, and this is an old figure for 4 or 5 years ago, and they were, I think, 403 million pairs of shoes in a year, and that's Adidas. And Adidas aren't the biggest. Nike will be like maybe 2.5 times that. And so if you're adding up all these shoes, where are they? where are they all? And it's just, it's just unbelievable. What I always said to Charlotte, what I'd love to do, and we're not big enough to do this. We're quite small. We've got good insight into what happens within the running community and textiles, but we're quite small. If we were bigger, I'd like to collect all the Adidas trainers that we're given, all of the Nike ones, and just bundle them up into a huge articulated lorry and drive it to their headquarters and then just dump it off at them and just like, you deal with this. You know what I mean? Because it should be their responsibility to deal with it. It's just it's outright irresponsible to make something that lasts for 3 months and hangs around for another 1,000 years. It's disgusting, really.
And what they could do as well that they don't do is there's so much you can do with a shoe after it's, it's not suitable for. I mean, I don't agree with this, but they're telling you it's not suitable to run in, and they frighten you and say it may cause injury, or they try and bribe you by saying you'll run better, or all their little tricks that they have. And so many people tell us that they put their shoes in the bin when they're finished with them, and you don't have to put your shoe in the bin, because it can be used either by you for other purposes other than running. It can be used by the next person who is happy to use it for another purpose other than running, or maybe running. All of Dan's shoes come from ReRun that he runs in. He's happy to run in secondhand shoes. But even after that, there are many homeless people, many refugees that would be so grateful for a pair of shoes. And that's what we do with a lot of our shoes. More than half of our shoes go to homeless and refugee charities.
But then realistically, they're getting another, best case scenario, another year out of them, maybe.
True.
They're still ending up,
Yeah, and then they must go to a recycling centre. That is the best case scenario for them. Never the bin. If anyone's listening, never the bin. Lots of people listening. So they must go to a recycling centre.
And that's it. I mean, we could essentially spend this whole conversation just listing thing after thing that's super negative about what's happening. But I'm really glad that you brought that up, Charlotte, because there are things that we can do, albeit seemingly small. There are certainly things we can do. And I think that's the greatest thing about ReRun, is that it really shows you that you guys are leading by example, and it really kind of, it brings the action that people really feel like they want to see. A lot of people, I feel, have this urge to really help out or do something different, or not be put into a corner and felt like they have to just throw their shoes into a bin. Like, there are other options, and everyone can do that. You brought up the example of Dan using secondhand running shoes. Now, that's super interesting in itself, because you're not just like an average runner, Dan. You've done some pretty incredible stuff. I mean, I don't know what's more impressive, you spending nearly 10 full days running entirely with Robbie Britton across Jordan, or the actual fact that you ran the whole distance,
that
across
could have been
Jordan.
you. It might have been all three of us, mightn't it?
Mate, I don't, that's what I'm saying. I think it's you accepting that challenge is probably more impressive than the running itself. But, so you're still on the Great Britain 24-hour team. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's actually just decided to he didn't reapply this year, and the reason was, part of the reason was, one of the things that made it better was to not have to wear the sponsorship logo anymore, and not have to represent in that way. Whilst he's very, very happy and proud to represent Great Britain, that definitely came in to
a little bit of that.
Equation.
If I'm being honest, Mel, I'm just fed up of running around circles for 24 hours. There's much more beauty to be found out on trails, or just running like proper races, rather than kind of I've just got a bit bored of it. Maybe next year I'll go back to it, but I need a year off.
Well, I mean, that doesn't take away from your incredible ability as a 24-hour runner, and things like winning the Gobi ultra trail race out in the Gobi Desert, and you've done some pretty incredible stuff. But so you do it all in either secondhand shoes or a mashup of secondhand shoes?
No, just secondhand shoes. I do for the past 2 years, maybe a little bit over 2 years now. I've both Charlotte and I, we committed to buying like nothing new in terms of like clothing and shoes. So yeah, so I run like entirely in second-hand clothes and shoes. Yeah, the mashup shoes I do make with the real end of life footwear, where there's just no other way for it. I can like pull them to bits and add like make two shoes out of one, but I tend to just wear them for leisure rather than oh no, I have run in them though, haven't I? I did do actually a pair of mashup ones. I did a 6-day race like this time last year in Hungary, and I did wear the mashup shoes for that. So I'll train in the mashup shoes, but maybe not run the races in them.
So over the 6 days, how far did you run in a pair of mashed up shoes?
About 900, just
920.
920 kilometers. Yeah.
That's pretty decent. I mean, that says a lot about the life of shoes after the life of shoes apparently ends, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. If you listen to the run companies, I'd have had to have thrown them away halfway through and then stuck on another pair. I don't know, maybe 3 pairs. And
I get really excited about I really love clothing stories. I just love the connection that you can have with clothes. I really, really enjoy that. And I get excited about Dan's clothes and how far they've traveled. It makes me really, really happy. And he's what are they? Adidas, the ones you wore in the Gobi. I love those trainers.
yeah,
Adidas
I can't
something,
remember what they're called,
whatever they are. And they have been to the Gobi, they've been to Jordan. They've just done so much and so many miles. And I really like thinking about that and how the adventures that they've taken him on and how beautiful that is. And I really, part of what I want for ReRun that's always on my mind is trying to work out how people can reconnect to their clothing, because I think that's what's happened. We've completely disconnected. We don't know what they're made of anymore as well. So that's part of the problem, because we've lost that connection. Because the same thing's happened with food as well. If you can make a connection with the journey of the thing that you consumed and with clothing, then you'll have more of a relationship with it, and you'll be less likely to want something new or to throw it away. You're going to want to keep hold of it and take care of it, look after it, repair it, and then pass it on, because it really felt something special. It was something really special to you. I kept a lot of my children's clothes, and now I have a granddaughter, and I love seeing the clothes on her. Just something really magical about that.
Yeah, I think, the same can be said for people. We've, in so many ways, we've lost that community connection to a lot of people don't even know who their neighbor is. And once you develop a connection, you have a much kind of clearer human pathway to develop some compassion for whatever it is that may be. Sometimes you enjoy a meal that you cooked, even if it doesn't taste as good as a meal that you get takeaway, because you've spent the time and the energy to do that and put something into it, have a connection.
I get that with the dregs of food. I'm really happy when I've cooked all the dregs from the fridge, because I've saved it. And I really enjoy eating it because I've saved it.
Yeah, it's something that carries through to so many different things. And I think, and so on that thought process of what something that really drives what you do, Charlotte, what are the values that, we were going to touch on it before, but what are the values that underpin what you do at ReRun?
I like to see the pile go down. That's true. No, it really makes me happy. At the moment, I'm packing up t-shirts, got thousands of t-shirts, and I wake up in the morning and I'm happy to go. We put them in boxes, and they're going to be going to Calais donations. And simplistic, but that is how I work. I just like to see. We have a business. Our business plan is that we want to put ourselves out of business within 5 years. So we've got 3 years left, and we'll know we'll be out of business because there'll be nothing left to repurpose. So that really drives me. So therefore I like to see the pile go down.
And so the reason I ask that is because exactly what we just touched on then is I feel like the concept of ReRun and what you guys do is, to many people, it will be a new thing and they won't have heard of it and they won't quite understand it. But I feel like the more they understand you as people and create more of a connection to the business that you guys do, the more they're going to have more of a motivation to get involved and actually support what you guys do. Because I think if we do that and successfully get more people educated on what you do, aware of what you do, and also connected to what you do, it's going to have a much greater reach and a much greater arc of success, I think, I think that is really important, because what you do at ReRun is brilliant, full stop.
Mm-hmm. But I think in a way, that goes back to like your first quote, your first anonymous quote, because we often have people who will write to us and say, we really want to help. I'm gonna get together loads of old clothes. We're gonna bring them to you.
And we have big brands and races at the beginning as well.
Who want to help. But again, it goes back to the thing, and we always say it to people: look, if you really want to help, then those old clothes that you were going to give to us, just keep wearing them. Don't give them to us, and because sometimes, and I get a little bit. There's times when I come into ReRun and we've had a lot of donations, and I start to sort through them, and I feel a tinge of guilt that we as ReRun are just becoming, like I talked about earlier, just we're a little bit of a cog in the consumption machine, because people can give us their old stuff, and that kind of then frees them up to feel good about donating old clothes. So then they go and buy new clothes. We kind of let that, I don't know, that river flow. We kind of part of it, aren't we? Which in some ways,
yes, we are. But
we are, but yeah. So it's the best way for people.
It's part of the process, though.
Mm-hmm. Rather than giving us their old clothes, just keep them and don't. And
I hope that we have, when you buy something for a start on our website, we ask you if you really need it, and then also once you've bought it, you get a long email that has all the facts on it about that you've mentioned about the website. It has a lot of information on there about what you can do and to help contribute.
It's all a bit funny, isn't it? So we actively encourage people not to donate to us and keep their stuff, and then the stuff we've got for sale, we actively encourage people not to buy it from us. If we go to races, and sometimes we go to races and have like a pop-up store, and we take some of the second-hand stuff. And when people come to look at it and think that, oh, this looks nice, we'll try and talk them out of buying it.
Because it's amazing.
We want them to really, really need it. And then some of the descriptions I write on the website are just basically really dissing the product as well, like not bigging up, oh, this is amazing. It's got dry wicking and zonal, I don't know, whatever rubbish they write on there. We'll just diss it and say it's just rubbish, it's just a bit of plastic, and try to encourage people not to buy it, or to think about, oh, maybe I don't actually need it.
But I think we're important because we're a part of the process. So because if someone can buy from us and not buy new, that's a win. So if you really need to buy something, which Dan will say you never need to buy anything, but let's say you do, then you buy, if you can buy second hand for us,
you can always nick something, can't you?
That is the most sustainable thing you can do. The most sustainable piece of clothing is the piece of clothing that already exists. If you want to be sustainable, that's what you need to do. So we used to, at the beginning, I spent so much time researching brands and materials and what's the best one and what should it be made of. And I'm glad I did that. And I was getting together a ReRun recommends bit for our website so that we could direct people. But I decided not to do that because in the end, you're just consuming. And what I say now when people ask what's the best thing we can do is, if you really can't stick with what you've got, and if you can't find it secondhand, and if you can't borrow it, then we all have different budgets. We all have different access to, you know, the kind of clothing that we can get, be it online or whatever's near us or where we live in the world. So the most important thing becomes, will you wear it? Will you wear it? Will you wear it for many years? And I don't mean 2 years. You know, I've got clothing that I've had for more than 15 years, so that long. And will you look after it so that you can wear it for that long? Or worst case scenario, you can pass it down. And for me, that's to be sustainable. That's what you need to be doing, not looking at, oh, who's got this certification and that, which foundation are they with, and are they this corporation? And just like everything, go start with yourself and ask yourself, do I really need it? Am I going to look after it? Am I going to wear it for many, many years to come? And then that will be a sustainable action. And that's really so important.
Yeah. And I think that, that perfectly ties back in to that quote that I said a little bit earlier on, which I might as well just repeat that, because I really think, geez, you know,
if you repeat it, it's definitely your quote now as well.
We can put this on the website, guys. I think it fits. But it is, the quote is, I do not need to spend every hour of every day contributing to the solution, but I refuse spending a minute contributing to the problem. And like you just said, Charlotte, it all, instead of going out and doing things externally, it starts with you and what the next choice that you make in anything that you do. You guys are a great example of that. And again, it's why I think it's so important to, you know, create further awareness about what you guys are doing. And what you do also in the business, it doesn't just start and finish with the collection and the redistribution or the reselling of clothes. You also work pretty closely with the running communities, with the profits that you guys make after all the operations and things like that. Is that correct?
Our profits are mainly in clothing. We're not making money from ReRun. There isn't the money. We cover our costs, and there's a tiny bit left over. So the profits come from the clothing, and that's where we redonate. So do you want to say about the shoe bank? I feel like you're
yeah, so at the moment we use this little bit of excess money we have just to campaign to raise awareness amongst the running community about the message we're trying to get across. And then we just use it as well to link up with other charities and other projects. So one thing we've got going is in England, I don't know if it's the same in Australia, but you have what you call food banks, where like, I don't even know if it's, anyway, people will donate food to these food banks, and people who don't have the financial means to buy food, or not in a good place financially, can access these food banks and get food from them. So we've created like we call it a shoe bank. So we've got lots of pairs of trainers, lots of running kit, which are available for anyone who makes contact with us and lets us know about their situation. And if they can't afford to get out and run, and they can't afford to get the equipment to get out and run, then we'll provide it free for them. And it's a good, a lot of the stuff we've got is very good quality equipment or that we can give to them. So a lot of the which we don't really make that much. We don't really make any profit anyway.
No, it's not
At the
financial.
moment. But it goes into that, yeah,
it's clothing.
And then helping out the refugee projects and homeless charities with kit and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, definitely more than 50% of our stock is given away. It's redonated. So there's it goes to mostly homeless and refugee projects, and then some outdoor charities that we're in contact with. But we're really strict. They have to also prove that they really need it as well, and we won't just willy-nilly give it away, because we know how easy it can be for places to end up in the wrong place. Like, we'll always ask for sizes. So with the refugees and the homeless, they have to give us numbers and sizes.
I think what we're quite strict and quite anal about is our mission is we want to save stuff from landfill, and what we don't want to do is give away clothes to projects who've just said we need some t-shirts and then not know that those t-shirts won't get worn and they might end up in landfill. So we ask all projects to be really specific. They have to tell us who the clothes are for and what sizes they need, so we make sure we're giving it. Yeah,
and that's had a really good knock-on effect, because it makes those charities really think about, oh, okay, yeah, and we'll get some thank yous from that. Oh yeah, thank you, actually, yes, we need to think about this and we'll get back to you. And that needs to be done on a bigger scale, just all round, to think about what are we producing, what are we creating, what are we giving away, because it's so much more than just second-hand as well. There's like excess fabric stuff that ends up on the cutting room floor from after it's been made, clothing that's been dyed for a brand and then it's the wrong color and it can't be sold. It's come out a funky color, and then there's 300 pairs of shoes that can't be sold, but they're brand new and there's nothing wrong with them. Those returns, so we have a few running shops that we work with, and they give us their returns, which might be a little bit wonky, but so maybe the what you put the shoelace through, the eyelet has maybe torn, but the rest of the shoe is perfectly fine. ReRun will do some kind of repair job on that, and then we'll fix it. Normally, returns, generally speaking, in the sporting industry, in the textile industry as a whole, it's much easier for it to go to landfill than it is for it to be repurposed. It's much less expensive. So a lot of returns. So that we must think about that when we buy things online, that we're making sure that we buy what fits us and what we need, and we're not going to return it, because a lot of that stuff ends up in landfill. So it's good. I think I'm really trying to be brave and to speak out on my social media and not be afraid to. I don't want to call anyone out, but just to be transparent and find out as much as I can about processes and encourage people to be transparent with their behaviors, but also brands and companies to be transparent about the problems that they're facing. For example, with the t-shirts, to talk to race directors and say, what is it that's making you offer these for free? Like, why do you feel that you need to do that? What feedback are you getting that makes you think that they want your t-shirts? Because we've got 100 of these and not everybody wants them. And so yeah, art of conversation, as you were saying, and sometimes you have to be courageous and ask questions that are uncomfortable to make change. So trying to do that.
And what have you seen to be the most successful way about being, the most successful way to be loud on your in your communications that you put out there, whether it's via social media or via email? Like, what have you seen people respond to the best? Is it?
I think. I think in my experience of it, and actually, I don't really look at social media, so I don't really know what's going on there. But maybe this is just me. When you actually speak face to face with people, I think it's really important. We try to go to like running events, and when you actually stand and chat to runners within our community, I think it's much easier to get the message through. People seem to understand.
Yeah.
And also I think what's happened a few times is when people actually come to ReRun to our base, to where we, and they see the volume of trainers and t-shirts. And like I say, we're quite small. I think it resonates, it makes a difference as well. I think it's really important.
And when they see the quality of the clothing as well, so much clothing is donated to us with tags on, and they're like, wow, what's wrong with this? For me, so Dan's really good at face-to-face, so that works with him, and that's good. We're a good partnership like that. I'm better behind a screen. And I find that if I'm really polite, really positive, but also persistent, and also I try to be careful not to be accusatory. So I'll often say, include ourselves when I'm questioning something, so that it's apparent that I'm not, because you can be quite condemning when you're trying to get people to think about their waste. But yeah, I'll often say we and our, so I include ReRun in that, so that it becomes a group effort. But definitely persistence, because anyone that uses social media knows, you're like on to the next thing really quickly. You forget.
And so championing good project, or
definitely
good projects,
championing good
examples.
Projects. Yeah, but not only that, but championing people
and not calling people out, because it's not about that. It's about positivity, isn't it? And look what these people are doing. It's amazing. Not having a go at big brands.
No,
but actually, when I speak to people individually, that I just rant and swear and call out big brands. But individually, I think that works. You know what I mean? But I don't think it's.
But you're not calling them out. You're just being quite factual, actually, and that works face to face.
Sweary factual.
Yeah, but written down, it doesn't work so well to call people out. It's not.
Yeah, I think we can. There's a lot to be said about how you can, motivate people in certain ways, and yeah, I think one of them, you kind of touched on it just then, is, if we can all lift each other up together and move in the same direction together, that's going to be it's probably going to be a more effective way of doing it, and it's definitely going to be a lot more of an enjoyable way, instead of beating each other down until we all beat each other.
Switch off then, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. And it's a lot of things will just go into an argument, and how far have we all got as soon as we started arguing? Like we've only argued ourselves into our own corner, and then we've just put ourselves up on a soapbox. But so I think I appreciate that you guys are taking the effort to try and create somewhat of an uplift as well, and like create that positive change, because it is very easy to use the numbers and to deliver that in a very negative light. But to stay on a more positive subject, and to dig a little bit deeper on how to have a really positive effect, I wanted to know how you guys get your daughters involved in the whole project, and what they do. Are they out the back just cutting up shoes and stitching them together, or are they?
So our eldest daughter, Lily, I'll be brutally honest. I mean, she's really good. She has a young daughter. She's her daughter's 14 months old, and she understands, doesn't she? She understands the importance of not what ReRun's doing, but the importance of the whole kind of ethos around, us having to change our behaviour around, especially around environmental issues. Because I think she looks to the future, with her daughter. She wants her to inherit a world as beautiful as we have. Yeah. So Lily's quite good. To be honest, our 16-year-old daughter, we get her to ReRun to try and instill that in her. Would that be right in saying that?
I think she's still working out. Yeah. She's still working out her beliefs, and we're finding we're working on the role that best suits her. And at the moment, she's in charge of the shoe bank. And I think that really suits, because you have to find what you connect with, don't you? And I thought she might be interested in the kind of fashion side of it, but actually she's not at all. But the shoe bank, she is interested in people's stories, and she's in charge of that. So people write to her and explain who they are, and then Dan will work with her about what he thinks, and they'll come up with a solution together about whatever that situation is. And that, I think she connects with that the most. We've home educated them their whole lives, so this is an extension of that. But in the end, they're their own people, so they're a work in progress.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was going to say, you know, do they have these kind of programs going at school, you know, where they get encouraged to do things like this? But I mean, you know, you've just clearly highlighted that they
don't
do.
know.
In terms of they get it right at school, because school is home. So the girls are involved in certain different ways, and you know, how could people outside of your family and, you know, your closer friends, how could they get involved to help you achieve what you want, or what you ideally envisage?
Yeah, I think we touched on it before. What I always say to people is the best way for you to help us is kind of be I don't know what, not an advocate, but to just kind of be a voice for us within your little community, you know, because we go outside and we run in the countryside, we kind of naturally assume it's just really environmentally friendly, and it doesn't really leave any scar or any waste on the earth. And sometimes we just need people to remind other runners that, you know, that there are ways we can do it better, you know. And I think that's the most important thing. Like what Charlotte said before, at ReRun, our mission is to put ourselves out of business. If we don't need to be here, it means everything's working really well, that people are looking after their clothes, they're taking care of them, they're repairing them, they're getting longevity out of them. So what we really need, is people just to start talking about that, and amongst each other, and start, you know, like setting up little challenges with their friends to try not to buy anything new for a month or 3 months or 6 months, and just start talking to each other, and start, I suppose, maybe a little bit, I don't know, investigating themselves. But
there's a big drive, isn't there, on social media to in some communities to always talk about this new best thing that you have. So if with ReRun you can talk about your best old thing that you have, and direct the conversation that way, like that you and people do, like I see it on my social media. So if we can spread that through social media, but also through face to face, which and be brave enough to. There's a stigma around secondhand clothing anyway, with
not
a lot of
secondhand
people.
though,
But secondhand
stick
sports
with what
clothing,
you got. Yeah.
Yeah, and
stick with old clothes. There's a stigma around old clothes as well, isn't there?
Yeah,
There's
and that it might be a bit faded, or that something might be torn, so you have to get something new. Just that's how people can help, is by just stick with it for a bit longer, like you would an ultra run. Go through the bad patch and come out the other side. We have a hashtag that's We Run with ReRun, and you don't have to run with ReRun to do it. It's a hashtag that's about or second is the new first. Just sticking with what you've got and keeping, you know, being proud to be running and wearing clothes that you've had for a really long time.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of really interesting things that I want to mention in regards to that. And one of them, the first thing, is that I was brought up outside of Melbourne, but I went and studied in the city of Melbourne. And it always just was so interesting to me that people would go out and buy, they're at university, but they're going out and they're buying like $400 pairs of jeans, $500 pairs of jeans to be, like hip and trendy. But if you went into your parents' cupboard and they had a pair of jeans that they bought 20 years ago, they were very, very similar. And what I'm getting at here is the cycle of trends and fashion, and how old clothes become cool again, and then new clothes become old, and then there's just this cycle, and it's just like, hang on, so let's let's pay attention to this. And, I think you can see it so clearly with sneakers these days, how all of the old sneakers, like the Air Jordans and stuff like that, are now worth like $10,000, and people are buying them for $10,000. And it's just like, hang on, we're humans and we're meant to be smart. So let's like look at this and understand that all we have to do is hold on to our current wardrobe that we've got right now, and then we're going to be bloody awesome hipsters in a few years' time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
So,
sorry, another classic thing to think of about when you talk about that real ironic thing is, so I'm not that up. You're the fashion icon, Charlotte, so you can tell us. But people now, they were buying like distressed jeans, so they were making new pairs of jeans and then putting them, cutting holes in them, smashing, like washing them with like rocks in washing machines so they look old, and then selling them as new. Why aren't you just wearing old jeans rather than going to a shop and buying
showing your
jeans?
age there, Dan?
Yeah, sorry.
But yeah,
but it's just ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. Buying
then
something
it's a
new
good
that's
job.
made to look old rather than just wearing a pair of jeans. Jeans last forever.
It's a good job that clothes last so long. We just need to stop throwing them away. It's not a problem that they last a long time. We just need to look after them better and stop throwing them away. And then
stop making more.
And the 150 billion units of clothing are made every year. Every year. That's an insane amount. 7.9 billion of us on Earth, and we're not. It's not even how that clothing is distributed. So if we can just lessen the demand, and an element of it comes from us because we keep buying. So yeah, that is something that everyone can do. It's not like, what I think is so wonderful about this is that, unlike, because there's a lot of focus on food and trying to buy local and not buying food with palm oil or not this and that and no plastic, and it's really challenging because it's limited what you have access to, and also you really need to eat. But with clothing, you really don't need to have that new t-shirt, so you can spend a bit of time in the clothes that you already own for a bit longer while you're deciding whether you need new stuff at all. So that's a really wonderful thing about this message that we're trying to give, is it's because a lot of people feel like they can't do enough and they want to do more, and this is, you can have a massive impact by just wearing your clothes longer, have a huge impact, positive impact on climate change. And
yeah,
so I feel excited about that.
Yeah, no, and it's great because people should be more excited about the things that they do day to day, which is awesome. And you do actually, you've got it, like the stat of it on your website, and it does say that extending the life of clothes by just 9 months of active use would reduce carbon, water, and waste footprints by around 20 to 30% each.
Yeah,
that's like you said, that's significant, and that is something we could all do. 9 months.
7.9 billion of us did that. Imagine, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I was gonna also mention, because we're talking about using what you've got and making it last a bit longer. And are you guys aware of the concept? And now I don't know what it's called, but a friend of mine actually, shout out to Jill. Thanks for sending this to me, Jill. She sent this to me today, and I'm sure you guys may be aware of it, but in Japan, broken objects are often repaired with gold, and so the concept is,
what's it called?
I'm not sure what.
Did she tell you what it was called? I can't remember, but I've seen it. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and so the object's broken. So you could picture like a bowl that's been broken, and what they do is they repair it with gold, and then what happens is the flaw or the broken aspect is seen as like a unique piece of the object's history, which then is interpreted as being more beautiful. It's got history, and that's part of its beauty. And it reminds me of what like Patagonia does with worn wear, and that whole worn wear campaign. And it's so interesting that the items that actually become super popular are the ones that you can really clearly see where there's been a repair being done, and it's either a different color or a vastly different color, and it stands out, and it's like, like I've got a patch sewn onto my jacket that shows that it's been torn, and that happened when I
and it's been on an adventure.
I like it. I mean, we talk about doing the same here at ReRun, to have like a plaster, like a big, that garish kind of plaster that we sew and stick on to like where the repair was made. But I think that's the future for ReRun. Really, we talked about it a lot. Is to be there to repair people's stuff rather than to offer the second hand.
Yeah,
do you not agree?
I do agree, and we're also creating a map that's on our website for the UK. It'd be great to have it all over the world, where you can type in. So it's for sporting equipment, but you type in your area and you can see what's around you, where you can donate clothes and what's needed. So where you can donate old trainers, where you can donate sporting equipment, where you can have things repaired, who's being creative and is upcycling clothes. And I think that's I'm really working hard on that as well, to provide that service, because we have to, Dan and I are both really into localism, and I think working locally is really, really important, because like you say, then you get to know your community, and then you're more committed to positive behaviour and behaviour change. So yeah, that's something that ReRun is working really hard on, that we hope to, that would be my legacy from ReRun.
So, Charlotte, do you ever dare to dream that you could take this far beyond, focusing on the running industry of clothing and take it to every industry of clothing, and what that would look like to scale up to that kind of a task?
It's huge, isn't it? There's so many different sports. Well, probably tell from my stuttering. I find at the moment I'd find it a little bit overwhelming, but it would be amazing, yeah. And maybe we're inspiring. I know we've inspired some cyclists.
But I think yes, we're centered within the running community, but it's not. When you speak to people and when people start to change behaviour, they don't change behaviour just in their running clothes, or they change behaviour in their lives. So I think that the running community is like a little in for us because we're embedded in it. But I think it's people don't just stop or continue to wear old running clothes. They'll continue it with all of their other clothes as well.
And actually, you were asking me something earlier, that how people can help, and we do suggest as well that people set up for example, a clothes swap with their running club. This is a brilliant thing to do. So you all bring, and clothes swaps now have been commercialized, and you pay a fee, and it's a whole big whatever, and that's fine. That's one way of doing it. But we try to encourage, just take the stuff you don't wear to your running club. Everyone take it, put a big pile on the floor in the middle. Take what you want or what you need, from the pile, and then we'll take the leftover stuff. So we try to encourage people to come up with their own ways of dealing with the textile waste that their running club, that they're producing in their community and in their homes. So yeah, clothes swapping is just such a brilliant win, because then you see it on your mates as well, and that's brilliant. You see your clothes on your mates, and they get a new life that way. So
have you guys had any real negative pushback, or any negative like get out of my running club, I'm not going to give you my old shoes, just piss off?
I think we're quite lucky.
Not to our faces.
Yeah.
That's good.
So far, so good.
Yeah, we do have people that especially, we have had people when we've talked and tried to campaign about this, like the race t-shirts, and the kind of ceasing of giving them out, of people who say, no, I really, really love my race t-shirt, and like a little bit of stuff like that. But that's brilliant, because if if you have a passion for loving your clothes, and that's exactly what we're trying to promote. That's what Charlotte says, that you have a story, a connection to it, and then you're more likely to hold on to it for years and years. So yeah, it's nice in a way, although sometimes they could perceive it as them being negative towards us. It's actually quite a good thing because it shows a passion for the clothes they've got.
Yeah, and maybe we have, but we don't notice it, because I just call it feedback.
Excellent.
And I quite appreciate that.
Yeah, brilliant. Non-emotional communication. That's great. It's helpful for everyone. That's good. Well, thanks so much, Charlotte and Dan. It's been for me. I've really been looking forward to having a chat to you both, and really actually getting to meet you for the first time. I know it's via computer, but it's so rad because I have been watching from afar, and it would have been from when you guys very first started doing ReRun, because I was living with Robbie at the time and got my eyes onto it, and I just thought, this is brilliant, this is so good. Like one day, I'm going to be really, really slow and no one's going to really want to sponsor me in my running endeavors, and I'm just going to be a ReRun athlete, and it's going to be great.
Amazing.
Maybe.
Brilliant.
But and you know what, like regardless of when that time's going to come, I think it's you've both given us a lot to think about, and I think you don't have to do anything different except continue on with doing what you're doing, but just do it for a much longer time. Wear what you've got, appreciate, respect what you've already got, and just keep enjoying it, because there's a lot more to enjoy with things past this fictitious use by date or old date that they
right, man.
start to
Life's
accumulate.
a lot simpler.
And spread the word.
Yeah, definitely.
Your own clothing and how long you've had it. Brag about it.
Yeah, go out there and create some stories with your clothing on.
Yeah.
And this is my first podcast, so thank you.
Hey Charlotte, you did great. Hey, I've got another quote for you.
Okay.
It's one of yours as well, yeah?
No, I do know the author of this one. I'll have to bring it up in a moment though. But and it relates back to dance. So the quote is, "Dance is just discovery, discovery, discovery." It's pretty good, eh?
Whose is that one? It is a good one.
I believe it is Martha
MC
Graham.
Hammer.
MC Hammer. I believe it's Martha Graham. Yeah.
Oh, Martha Graham, lovely. Oh, I should know that. I studied her.
Well, I'm glad to have brought your attention to that. Such a great quote. And I think it ties in with everything that we've talked about. Is if you have the ability to continue discovering, you're going to create stories and create connection with things that are probably in your peripheral that you just don't take time to acknowledge and discover more about. So discover, connection, continuation of good life.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
All right, guys. Can't wait to put it out there and get some more people aware of the good work that you guys do.
Thank you. We really appreciate that.
So I really hope you got something out of that conversation with Charlotte and Dan. There was a lot of information in there to digest, and there was a lot of movement in terms of, the way they tried to explain the feelings that have motivated them to do what they do. And that can be one of the things that is pretty hard to articulate at times. I feel like Charlotte and Dan are moving as a result of some of the feelings that they have. And to their credit, they can obviously articulate a lot better than I can. I just want to say thanks again to Charlotte and Dan. And again, if you really can get out there and have a chat to them, I'm sure they would really appreciate it. Or if you can get out into your own community and create something of a similar fashion, sorry to use a pun there, I guess, but if you can get out there and do something in your own community, it's only going to benefit everyone. So thanks a lot. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you do have any feedback, it'd be really cool to hear it. If you want to message us and let us know that you enjoyed it, please do so at Stokely Podcast on Instagram. Until next time, have a good one.